I never expected a quiet day in Seattle, Washington to turn into a nightmare. My name is Jordan Hale, and I work for a mid-sized telecommunications company that monitors emergency broadcast signals. Not the flashy FBI kind, just a small team making sure local warnings, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis reach the public. Predictable, safe, boring work. Until the anomaly appeared. It started at exactly 3:17 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I was in the signal operations room, scanning the usual spectrum for dead channels when a faint pulse caught my eye. Not a broadcast, not an interference, but a repeating pattern buried in static, a series of 5 tones, each 1 milliseconds apart. I paused. The tones repeated, cycling through frequencies outside the standard AM/FM range. I ran a spectrogram. My stomach tightened. The pattern was too precise to be random. It was deliberate. I called my colleague, Mike. He leaned over my monitor, squinting. Looks like data. Encoded. I think so. But it's not in any standard format. Not Morse, not ASCII. Nothing I've seen. Mike shook his head. It's probably a test signal. Department of Defense, or someone screwing around. I didn't believe him. Something about it felt personal. Over the next few hours, the signal intensified. No matter how many filters I applied, it persisted across multiple frequencies. More than that, it seemed to follow me. Wherever I moved in the building, the tones echoed faintly in my earpiece, even though I had unplugged headphones, muted speakers, and powered down extraneous monitors. By evening, it had a rhythm. 5 beats, pause, 5 beats, pause. Like a heartbeat. And with each pulse, a subtle modulation in tone so subtle I only noticed after staring for hours that resembled speech. Not words, but syllables, patterns that could be translated. I tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself my mind was fracturing. But when I walked to the parking lot at night, the tones followed me into the static of passing car radios. My headlights illuminated the wet asphalt, but nothing else was out there, no trucks, no people. Only the pulse, growing louder. I went home, a small apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. The fog rolled in thick and cold, shivering the skyline. I double-checked the spectrum on my laptop. The tones were there, persistent, insistent. And then, unmistakably, a new pattern, coordinates. I typed them into Google Maps, a location in the industrial district, an abandoned radio tower on Harbor Island. I thought about calling the authorities. But something stopped me. Deep down, I knew if I did, the signal would vanish. It wanted me specifically. By 2 a.m., I couldn't resist. I grabbed my backpack, laptop, radio scanner, flashlight, and headed toward the tower. The streets were deserted. Fog muffled sounds. I kept thinking I saw shadows darting between containers and warehouses, but when I turned, nothing moved. My pulse synced with the tones that still hummed faintly in my earpiece. The tower loomed before me, rusted metal, cables swinging in the wind. Graffiti marked the base, faded messages from urban explorers long gone. I climbed the access ladder cautiously, flashlight cutting through the mist. At the top, a small platform with an old transmitter console, wires hanging loose, some still sparking faintly. The tones were louder here, resonating through the metal frame. My stomach churned. Then I saw it. A screen embedded in the console, glowing faintly. Text scrolled across. Jordan Hale. You are the recipient. Decode. Survive. My hands shook as I typed the first commands into my laptop, feeding the signal data into custom software I'd written years ago. The pulses converted into numbers, letters, fragments of sentences, coordinates, dates, warnings. But something felt off, like the warnings were tailored, personalized, predicting my moves. Hours passed. The fog thickened. The wind whipped across the bay. And then the first live images appeared on my laptop screen, grainy CCTV feeds from downtown Seattle. Pedestrians, traffic, office buildings. But zooming in, I recognized someone, me. Walking to the tower. Climbing the ladder. Every action I had just taken, shown as if I were being watched by a camera decades in the past. Or the future. I tried to shut the laptop. Power off. Unplug. Nothing worked. The signal had embedded itself deep into the hardware, bypassing firewalls, batteries, even sleep mode. I was trapped in a digital echo. A new message scrolled across the screen. Do not look away. One blink, one choice, will determine survival. From behind the console, a shadow emerged. At first I thought it was my imagination, but then the figure stepped fully into the dim light. A woman, tall, wearing a reflective jacket, face obscured by fog and shadow. You're Jordan Hale, she said. Voice metallic, distorted. You were chosen because you listen. I stammered. Chosen? What are you talking about? She didn't answer. Instead, she tapped a sequence on the console. The tones intensified, rhythmic and insistent. The screen flickered, showing something that made my stomach drop, a map of Seattle, pinpointed locations in the downtown grid, blinking red markers. Each marker had a countdown: minutes, seconds. Those are the signals, she said finally. Every one of them will trigger if ignored. People die. You decode, you survive. You fail, you end it all. I froze. Why me? Because you can hear it? Most can't. Most ignore. You listen. The next hours were a blur. I followed instructions, tracing coordinates, sending false triggers through amateur radio frequencies, tapping tones back into emergency networks. Every time I misread a pulse, a digital chime of failure echoed, a marker on the map turning from red to black. I didn't look at the affected locations too closely. My mind refused to accept what might have happened if I'd failed. By 5 a.m., the fog began to lift, and the final pulse came through, a sequence of tones that formed one final word. Run. The woman in the reflective jacket was gone. The tower stood empty. My laptop, scanner, and radio remained silent. I left the platform as the city woke below me, fog lifting from the bay. For the first time, I saw daylight, ordinary traffic, joggers along the waterfront. I dared a shaky smile. Alive. But the tones didn't leave. They were embedded in my memory now, faint and insistent, like a whisper beneath my skin. I could still hear them when no device was on, counting, waiting. Somewhere, someone or something was still broadcasting. And I was the only one left to hear it? I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't. I unplugged every device in my apartment, pulled the SIM from my phone, shut the blinds and sat in silence. But the tones were still there, faint under the hum of my refrigerator, behind the buzz of city traffic. My head throbbed in sync with the pattern. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the map again, those blinking markers, the countdowns. I had no idea whether my interventions had stopped anything. The local news mentioned nothing unusual, but I noticed vague phrases like unexplained service outages downtown and temporary evacuations due to gas leaks. Maybe those were the consequences. Or maybe they were cover stories. By the third day, I started dreaming in pulses. Short, long, short, like Morse but not Morse. I'd wake up at 3:17 a.m. the same minute the first signal had appeared and hear a new sequence. I wrote them down. Coordinates again, this time not in Seattle but outside the city, east of the Cascades. I tried to resist. I told myself to ignore it, to shut it all out. But the pattern got louder, physically painful, like someone turning a dial inside my skull. Finally, at dawn, I gave in. I packed the scanner and laptop, drove east on I-90 with the sunrise in my eyes. 2 hours later, I pulled off onto a dirt road leading to an abandoned weather station near a town called Ellensburg. The place looked dead, rusted radar dish, broken windows, no power. Yet as soon as I stepped out of the car, the tones went silent. It was like stepping out of a nightmare into a vacuum. No hum, no pulse, just stillness. My shoulders sagged. Maybe this was the source. Maybe destroying it would end everything. I crept inside. The interior smelled of damp wood and metal. Old equipment lined the walls, reel-to-reel recorders, analog transmitters, forgotten technology from the Cold War. In the center stood a table with a single device that didn't belong, a sleek black case with no markings. My heart hammered. I opened it carefully. Inside lay a small transceiver, humming faintly. A handwritten note was taped to the lid. You have reached the relay. Choose to destroy it, and you end the signal. Choose to connect, and you learn the truth. My fingers hovered over the power button. Destroy it, and maybe the pain ends. Connect, and maybe I finally understand. I pressed connect. The device emitted a soft click. My laptop screen lit up automatically even though it wasn't plugged in. Lines of code scrolled by, then a video feed flickered into view. At first, it was static. Then an image formed, a dimly lit room, walls covered with monitors. And in the center, the woman in the reflective jacket. "You found the relay," she said. Her voice was clearer now, less metallic, though still distorted. "You're not supposed to be this fast. Who are you?" My voice cracked. "Why me? Why any of this?" She tilted her head. "We're interceptors. We catch signals before they're weaponized. Most people can't hear them. You can. That's why you were tagged." "Tagged? You've been listening your whole life. You work in signals. You read between the noise. The pattern recognized you." I shook my head. "This isn't an answer. People are dying, aren't they?" Her gaze flickered to something off-screen. "Not if you keep intercepting." "I never agreed to this." "You already did the moment you decoded the first pulse." The screen went black. My laptop started to display a new interface, rows of incoming signals, all with countdowns. Not just Seattle anymore. Chicago. Dallas. New York. Hundreds of dots. I stumbled back. "No. I'm not your pawn." The tones returned, louder than ever, vibrating through the floorboards, rattling my teeth. My vision blurred. The laptop displayed one final message. "Decline and the next city burns. Accept and the relay becomes yours." I stared at the black case. All I had to do was close it, walk away. Pretend none of this existed. But the sound wouldn't stop. It drilled into my skull until I dropped to my knees. "I can't," I whispered. But my hands moved on their own. I connected the transceiver to my laptop. The interface stabilized, the countdowns paused. A new message appeared. "Welcome, Operator Hale. Interception active." The tone subsided to a low hum, almost like a heartbeat. My heartbeat. Somehow, I was now inside the system. The feeds showed live data from across the country, emergency networks, radio bursts, coded chatter. It felt like looking into a parallel world of hidden signals, a layer of reality no one else could see. I heard her voice again, faint but direct in my headphones. "You're part of it now. You can stop the worst. But you'll never go back. What do you want from me? Just listen. Just act when the pulses tell you. Every time you intervene, someone lives who would have died. But you'll never know who." My hands trembled over the keyboard. On one screen, a countdown for Chicago reached 30 seconds. On another, New Orleans ticked down from 90. I sent the first override, then another, my fingers moving faster than I thought possible. Each time I succeeded, a tone confirmed it. Each time I failed, a chime of loss echoed. I didn't know if I was saving cities or playing a game I couldn't win. Dawn bled through the broken windows of the station. My laptop glowed with thousands of signals, each one a potential disaster. My car sat outside, but I no longer had anywhere to drive. The tones had fused with my breathing, my pulse. I realized then the truth: this wasn't a rescue. This was recruitment. The system had chosen me, groomed me with pain and curiosity until I accepted. The woman in the reflective jacket was just the first handler. Now I was another node, another operator in an endless chain of interceptors. A final message blinked on the screen. "Your predecessor is free. You are the signal now." The tone steadied into a slow, constant beat. My mind cleared, a strange calm settling over me. I understood every pattern, every pulse. My eyes scanned the feeds and I knew exactly what to do. My old life in Seattle was gone. There was only the hum, the pulse, the hidden signals under America's noise. I reached for the keyboard, the relay humming softly under my fingers, and began to work.